So, having said that, let's turn the page. So, now we have understanding fields of ministry, and we're going to desire to serve people. So, it's not about us, but it's about us empowering. You know, if we go back to originally to the quote that I had from John Quincy Adams, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And what he's really getting at is this whole idea of you serving them, you're empowering them. They're going to grow and they're going to be fruitful in whatever they're moving ahead for. Now, so turn over the page. I want to talk about team building, because this is the third component, the third foundation of leadership. And because what we understand is that when we learn to build teams, we put a lot more horsepower into this endeavor. So we have to be humble enough. And really, as I look at it, I was just looking at it as I was praying over this and preparing. I'm like, really, each one of these four foundations of leadership have to do with character, don't they? They're really character stuff. Like, is it all about me as a leader? Or am I going to serve others, humble myself like Jesus did, wash their feet and empower them? That's a test of character. It's a test of humility. In the fields of ministry, is it really about, am I going to be patient to allow God to promote me rather than me trying to promote myself? So over in the fields of ministry, here you had King David, and on comes Samuel the prophet, and he anoints him to be king. Man, that's awesome. I am anointed to be king. For David, that's amazing. It's powerful. He's moving towards his destiny. Except there was only one problem. Do you know what that problem was? There already was a king. Okay? So David did not usurp the king's authority, try to kill, even try to gather people around to throw the king out. He was anointed and called to be king, but he awaited for God to promote him and place him in that place of leadership. So it was the understanding the fields of ministry and being patient to allow God to expand or change your fields of ministry is really a test of character, isn't it? Really? And then also coming back to, when we look at this thing of building teams, and I have 10 components. I'm just going to go ram through here like a machine gun. I know you don't have guns in Canada, but in America we have guns. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go through these like really fast, all right? Bam, 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 all right? But, really, if sometimes it's easier to do something yourself, but you're going to get more bang out of the project. You're going to have more people empowered if you take the time to build a team. Like, look at us, not just look at us, but like we have a team of 15 youth leaders. Like, that's a team. And what we found is that when one person felt called to go on to another thing, guess what? There was another person right beside them who had just learned their task and was really ready and willing to step in. Like, we feel strongly about the power of a team. Whatever you're doing, build a team to do it. Like, if you're the head usher in this church, or let's say the head car parker, go back to that example, and it's just you that is going to do all the car parking, do you really want to be out there every Sunday telling people where to park their cars? I don't even know if you have car parkers here, but anyway, it's a good example. Do you want to be out there every Sunday telling people where to park their cars all the way through the winter? Or do you want to build a team of people so that every fourth Sunday you're out there with 2 or 3 other people having coffee, chatting together and having a good time and getting people their places to park? So whenever you build team, you just have built something that is greater than yourself, and it becomes a test of character. So let's look at this. Team building. Will you take the time and the energy to bring others into the project, into the initiative, maybe whatever it is, a youth group, a church plan, a cell group, and so forth? So here we go. Build with vision. This is how you build a team. Build with vision. God has a vision for his people. Vision always precedes reality. Vision is a gift God places in a church to inspire people to see something they would not otherwise see and believe something they would not otherwise believe. When we train church planters, we train them that it's when you only have like yourself and your wife and another couple, it takes a long, long time to plant a church, and your likelihood of success is very low. But when you take the time with the two of you or the four of you to build a broad team of 10, 15, 20 people, so that when you start that church plant and you have a team, then not only is it easier for you, you don't get burned out, but also your likelihood of success goes way up. It goes a lot higher because of all the gifts and everything. But ultimately it comes down. You build a team with vision. And so every leader should lead their team with vision, whether that's the head car parker, or that's the lead elder of the church, or whether that's the starter of a new homeless ministry in your neighborhood. Whatever it is, lead with vision. Declare the vision. Habakkuk talks about that. The second area, build in holiness. And you think, well, what does that mean? Building with holiness. What does that have to do with what does that have to do with building a team? And really it comes down to this, is that we want to welcome people with different backgrounds and diversity. We'll talk about that here in just a bit. But at the same time, we want to bring them to a place of maturity. And so when we're called together into this endeavor together, I'm leading this team, I want to help people. We want to do that, like I guess I would just say, in the fear of the Lord. So when we're understanding that is that if a person on my team is struggling with a character issue or an area that need to grow in, we want to speak that to them so that they can grow and come to a place of maturity. We want to grow them up, and so, like, for example, on our going back to our youth leaders team, like, we talked about and came up with those things together. Like, we are not going to we're not going to do things that are going to cause suspicion to come upon our youth group. So, and we hold each other accountable to that. So, whenever we're building a team, we want to build it with a sense of holiness unto the Lord. And if someone is not measuring up to that character that we feel like the team should that the character that the team should hold, then it's fair enough for us to confront them on that. Okay, we always confront in a loving way and so forth, but at the same time, we want to build a team with a sense of holiness. It's not just anything goes, but we know scripturally that leaders are held to a higher standard. Okay, could go on that for a while, but we're not going to. Build in holiness. Now, next one here, build a team with a variety of gifts. So what we want is unity, but not uniformity. So we want diverse personalities. We want different gifts. If I'm building a team, the thing that I don't need is 5 other Brian Sauders on my team. If I'm a team leader and I need to build a team, I don't want 5 people that are exactly like me. I want 5 or 6 other people that think differently and who have different perspectives, and we're not afraid of that. And we want to encourage diversity in a lot of ways, because diversity reflects the character of God. He created all people. So we want men, generally speaking, we want men and women. We want different races, different backgrounds and cultures, and that gives the team a more holistic approach of what God is like, and it also gives us the opportunity to make better decisions. So what we've found is that even people that we can have unity without uniformity, and so we teach team members how to walk in unity, and that's part of the holiness. Is it's okay to disagree without being disagreeable. And so team building really requires a diverse team. Number 4, the next one I should say, build with inclusiveness. Include a variety of theology. Now you have to have the core thing that you can work together with, but we want to be inclusive in our decisions. And so we want to draw people out. Like I've been in a couple of teams where I realized a team leader's perspective is to draw out of every person who is on that team. So generally when you have a team of people, you have a few people who tend to do most of the talking. And so it's the team leader's responsibility, and this is where inclusiveness comes in, to ask that person who's sitting there quietly, okay, Janet, what do you think about this? We haven't heard from you. Okay, David, I haven't heard you on this particular issue. So the team leader's responsibility is to draw out the wisdom of each team member. Build through inclusiveness, and it creates a place of respect. Next paragraph there, we're talking about build by following. So we have a place of respect and so forth, but what we understand is that we build by following, and Ephesians chapter 5 talks about this. When the team, you build the team when the team realizes that you're under authority. So when you're following someone else, other people will follow you. And we'll kind of unpack this a little bit more when we get out in our last foundation here. But that gives people the freedom to follow you, because they know that you're not just a loose cannon who doesn't have anyone to answer to. Then they feel, but when you are under authority, then they feel protected. So what happens is, if you're on a team and there's no authority for the team leader, then the team can't effectively, this is actually pretty important, the team can't function effectively because the team members think they have to bring counterbalance, or they have to bring correction, and they have to bring, they have to correct the team leader, or somehow provide internal correction within the team. And what happens, it gets divisive. But when there's an outside authority that the team leader is responsible to, like, let's just say it like this: when the pastor of a church has an outside authority that they are submitting to, it causes everyone in the church to be, I'm protected. I know my pastor's not perfect, but he has somebody that he's answering to. If the pastor has nobody that they're answering to, what happens is people in the church rise up to try and provide that accountability. And then that just creates an upheaval. You have waves all across the surface now, waves going and up, turmoil every which direction. But when there's outside accountability, then, the sheep are at peace. Because they know that their pastor should have accountability, and they know that he does. And so things function appropriately. So build team by following. Build team unity joyfully. So what we want to say, now I have a question for you. I'm going to, when we have a chance to get some discussion here, I would like to have a couple people respond to this question before I get into joy. I want a couple people to respond to the best team that you've ever been a part of. It could have been a church team, could have been a sports team, could have been a team in a business, could have been a neighborhood team that was working on a certain project. The best team I was a part of and why, and the worst team I was a part of and why it was so bad. Okay? So just kind of chew on that a little bit. I'm going to gear in about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask you to get some feedback. We'll kind of learn from each other about some of these team building things here. Build the team unity joyfully. The kingdom of God is supposed to be fun. It is a serious task maybe that we're called to. We're called to change the world, but that doesn't mean it has to be a burden and a drudgery. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Okay? When you're a team leader, get your team to laugh together. Tell jokes. Oh, my word. Janet and I were just out with one of the pastors and his wife this week, and that we're overseeing there in the United States. And we absolutely made a scene in the restaurant we were in because we were laughing. I just about rolled out of my chair. So this church, they want to change their name. So I just Googled the 10 worst names for churches ever. And sure enough, there's a list out there, the 10 worst names for churches ever. And so we're just reading through this list, and we started laughing and laughing. I just about rolled off of my chair, and everybody around this restaurant is looking at us, and we're like, oh, I'm sorry, and we're trying to explain, well, we're trying to come up with a name for a church, and we're just figuring out what we don't want to name it, and so forth. But I'm just saying, like, the joy, it's a joy. It should be, and if you're not as a team functioning in joy, you can do some practical things that intentional things that will bring joy into your midst. Enjoy your team, worship, celebrate, etc. Enough said. Build team unity joyfully. Build with discernment. So we all know this, but I just want to mention it. If it's a godly thing that you're doing, the enemy is going to oppose it. So be discerning as you're building your team that the enemy is opposing you. So you just need to have just an appropriate amount of understanding that no weapon formed against you is going to prosper, and every tongue that rises up against you is going to be condemned. And so your role as a leader, as you're leading that team and developing the team, it's also a protective role so that you watch out over the team members that God has given you on that team. So build with discernment, build as learners, ask questions, identify your own biblical presuppositions, test other ideas. The best thing I can say, build as learners, is that you'll be more cohesive as a team together if you learn something together, study something together, do a gift survey together, and find out what everybody's spiritual gifts are. And that's just an awesome way to build team, is if you do something, some kind of training, read a book together, do something like that, learn together. It's an amazing way to build team. It puts, what it does is, these guys might, if you're the team leader, many of your team members are probably going to be volunteers. So when it kind of like creates value in them when you take the time to help them to grow as an individual. And you're all kind of growing together as far as that. Build as learners. Build through righteous speech, your communication skills. Speak consistently and clearly. And I would say, we could just write down in the margin Habakkuk chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. He's talking about write the vision down. The first thing we talked about was lead with vision, build with vision, and build your team with vision. But also it has to be clear. It has to be written down, we would say, and you want to be consistent. You can't, if you're going to build a team, you can't change the vision every couple of months. You have to kind of lay it out. This is what our team is. We're going to plant a church, and it's going to be in this neighborhood, in this part of Brossard, or this part of Ontario, and here's what the vision is, and so forth. So you can't change that vision every 3 months. It has to be consistent and clearly communicated, or team members become discouraged. There's also a part of that is you have to teach people righteous speech, and part of that is building in a team in a sense of holiness. When people are being divisive, when people are speaking negative, we have to use Matthew 18. We encourage people to go to talk to people. So there's a whole process. I have a whole page that we teach on righteous speech. We're not going to go over it here, but we have to teach people to clearly communicate in a biblical way, even within the context of a team, and allow people to disagree. Allow someone to disagree with you. It doesn't mean they don't like you. As a leader, you have to be secure enough, as Jesus was secure enough somehow, to wash the feet of his disciples. And Jesus was, and we as a team leader, we just have to be secure so that if somebody disagrees with us, that doesn't mean they're not with us. I think Rick Joyner, is a friend of ours, says this, there might be 1% of truth in every criticism. So you can just write it off, or let's say, but if you just write off the criticism or write off their opinion that person has, you'll never get that 1%, which you maybe should hear. You never get better if you just totally write off the whole thing. Ron Meyer, who's in one of the leaders of Dove in USA, the apostolic leader for Dove USA, he says it like this: If you If you listen to the whispers, you'll never have to endure the screams. If you listen to the whispers that people are saying, like, well, you know, I'm tired, or I'm this, or why do we have to do that? You know, listen to the whispers. You'll never have to endure the screams that are outright rebellion and division and so forth. Listen to them. They might need to be confronted, but maybe there's something there that we should learn and incorporate into our vision. The last thing there, build with good planning. Nehemiah built the wall. He had everybody on it, and you always have, you know, it's biblical and godly to have a plan. Every sports coach has a plan. Every military general has a plan going into battle. They are 100% certain that that battle will not go as planned, but they still start with a plan. All right, now let me hear some of your experiences. Teams that you were on. I think we have time for this. Yep, we do. Teams, the best team you were ever on, or the best team you've been on, and why, or the worst team you were ever on and why it was the worst. Okay. Anyone want to go? Sure. I'm going to bring, can you come up here? Is that all right? Or how big? Okay, that sounds good. I didn't know how wide the video is here. So yeah, go ahead, go for it.
Well, is this on yet? Early in my career, I was working for Praxair. And I was with a team that consisted of a few friends who had been together for about 10 years. And then the upper management changed. New president, new vice president, new sales manager, the whole kit. And they tried to reinvent the wheel. Mm-hmm. And all of the lower management, ourselves, were stuck with picking up the pieces. And so I didn't enjoy working with that team for a while. And I left. Fast forward.
So that was the worst team you were ever on. And
fast forward
gotcha.
to starting my business 12 years ago, and I'm working with the best team now, my two boys.
Gotcha.
But it's my vision, same business, and everything's rolling just well.
Good.
That's, yeah.
Would you say why? You said why on the team that was the negative, because management
we didn't get support.
Yeah,
they
gotcha.
just changed everything
without. And it didn't involve you.
They didn't involve
us in the decision making.
Yeah.
And now it's positive, the best team ever, because
we get
not just
involved
it's
together.
Your family.
It's not just because it's my two boys. It's because we
yeah.
take. I allow them to take initiative in the business to make it
they
their
have
own.
Ownership.
It's their own.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? Who else? What's that? Okay. All right. Others. The best team you were ever on and why. The worst team you were ever on and why.
Somebody was before they comment. Come on, get up here. I know you got something. Come on. That's all I do. You don't have to mention names.
What makes you think?
Yeah.
Makes you think I remember?
Like the company I used to work for.
Well, both the best team and the worst team were separated by about 3 or 4 years. The best team was the team that I had with me when I was director of the Salvation Army College. And the reason it was the best team is when I came on board as the director, everybody else who was there left, and I got to build my team from scratch.
Okay, good.
Which was absolutely wonderful. I had a detail person. I had a couple of people who were insightful and would be very challenging.
So you had diversity.
Yeah. And just a really good mix. And we talked on a regular basis. We met formally about every 2 weeks, but there was almost never a day that went by that we were not having some sort of exchange about what was going on. So it was amazing.
So you had good communication. Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
And the worst team I was ever on was Oh, yeah. I was in a secondary. I was second in the leadership command structure, Salvation Army, and it was there was very little communication. There was very little exchange. There was no place for divergent opinion, and my opinion was usually somewhat divergent. So it felt bad. Huge long meetings to just tell us what we were to do, which could have been accomplished with a 3-page memo, and
Gotcha.
and we had to be there. It was I dreaded those meetings and did not enjoy the team.
Okay, good. Anyone else? All right. We'll just close the floor. Keep thinking about that. Maybe I come up with one at the end of the night here. Janet, do you have anything you want to add about team building? Anything? Before we move on to authority and accountability?
Just, I was going to say, I was thinking what I would say about team building, because I love team, and I think it was your best team with your boys because they're part of the team, and that's the part that I love. Is like you have people in a team, to keep them interested, they have to feel invested, and they have to feel like they're important, that they have something to offer. So, if you have an idea or you have a plan, before it's totally cemented in place and it's dry and this is what we're going to do, bring it to the team. If they can invest into it, it usually ends up better than what it was going to be in the first place, because they'll add they'll see it from a different angle and they'll add some things. So that's, I love working with a team.
Okay, we say different times, like the team leader sets the vision, but the team members a lot of time refine and define. So like the team leader might have the ultimate vision of where we're going. There was Nehemiah. But the team members actually help. They might have a better way to get there than what the team leader does. But they'll contribute to the whole for the good of the whole. And that's where the leader will, has to be able to realize that maybe my way isn't the best, but ultimately what's responsible, the goal is to get the vision accomplished. And so we say many times the team members help to refine the vision and define definition. And sometimes definition means ask questions. Okay? So the team leader can't be, the team leader can't be put off by his team members, his or her team members asking questions. Well, what about this? How are we going to do that? Have you ever thought about this? Like, if the team leader is not secure in who God created them to be in leading, they'll be put off by those questions and think that they're threats. They're not threats. They're just what's going to help to make the whole vision better, getting the